Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. I think tomorrow is Giving Tuesday tomorrow, right? I was like, I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Anyway, I just wanted to represent White Oak Bicycle Co-op. Tell a fun little story. I'm obviously inside my house right now because it's cold and wet outside and it's that time to transition back inside. But we were in Nashville a couple of weekends ago for a trip for my son, and we were at this coffee shop, and my husband was wearing his White Oak Bicycle Co-op shirt, and the barista said, "Oh, hey, can you tell me about that? What is that?" And so we explained who they were and that they're a nonprofit based here out of Red Bank that collect bikes, refurbish them, fix them up, and then distribute them out to kids in the community, to our unhoused members of the community, and also do educational programming, give helmets to kids at schools and do little classes with them there. And he was like, "Man, that's so cool. I'm a cyclist. So those extra shots you just ordered are going to be on the house for me." So White Oak Bicycle Co-op, we represented y'all in Nashville and kind of spread the word a little bit, and I just thought it was a really cool little story. So yeah, support from near and far across the state. I'm in my house, like I said, it's just that time of season, and I thought you guys might want to see my Christmas story Easter bunny ornament and all of my collection of Red Bank ornaments. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just here to talk to you guys about our agenda for tomorrow, but just wanted to share that little story with you first. Yeah, tomorrow we do have a few things on the agenda, and we also have a pretty important vote that we're going to be taking on our tax rate, which is kind of confusing because you're like, it's December, why would you be doing that again? And I'll explain why. I know you guys are aware of all the situation that's been going on with the incorrect certified tax rate that we got from the county property assessor's office. So it's been a whole journey since we discovered that and figuring out next steps. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But first, we'll be getting a briefing from our community development department. So Director Leslie Slay will be going over kind of a first quarter briefing on where they are so far, progress on projects and things like that, and letting us know what we have to look forward to for the remainder of the year. And a big component of that, I know, is going to be centered around the revamping of our zoning ordinance and our land use plan, because they're both very outdated. When they were implemented years ago, they were purposely implemented to be as restrictive as possible, don't allow a lot of flexibility for property owners, business owners, and does not align at all with our comprehensive plan that we just voted on over the summer. So I know that that's going to be a big component of that, and I know Director Slay will be talking about what that process is going to look like over the next year, until we get to a place where we can actually vote on what is called a unified development code. Just a little fun little tidbit. If you want to look up more about it, you should. It's kind of a merging of like traditional zoning, form-based code, and all kinds of other things in between. So anyway, it'll be a really good conversation. That will only happen in our work session. So if you want to hear that, make sure that you come at 5 or start the live stream at 5. And also, yes, we are aware that there have been some audio issues at the last 2 meetings. They have ordered a part that is supposed to fix that. I hope that we're going to have that in place tomorrow. Bear with us, please. I think the problem has been YouTube, and we're trying to get set up to move away from YouTube so that we don't have to stream through there. So anyway, bear with us. Thank you for your patience. We're working on it. Item number 2, we're going to appoint one new person to the Festival Advisory Board. I won't go into detail on those, just so we can get to the more important topics, but that's very important. Thank you for our community member for stepping up. We also have 3 neighbors that are going to be appointed to be on our Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So we'll hear about those tomorrow from our Parks and Rec manager, Jeffrey Graby, and hopefully some of them will be able to attend, and we'll get to meet them at our meeting or see them at our meeting if we know them already. Item number 4 is authorize an additional $78,548 for the Dayton Boulevard ADA upgrades project, and that's PIN number 130774. That has to do with it being labeled for a TDOT project. We have had this project in process since 2019, well before I was ever elected. I have since voted on 1 or 2 amendments to like add funding, amend contracts because of the time that it has taken to actually get started on this project. But right now, this additional $78,548 is additional funding to finish and finalize design and engineering work on the project. And that funding is not coming from city funds. It's not coming from the general fund. It's actually coming from MPO funds. So that's the Metropolitan Planning Organization that we're a part of, like in the greater Chattanooga area, that Vice Mayor Berry sits on for us as our representative. And they are allotting additional funding for us for that project. We just have to vote to amend the contract with the engineering firm and design firm and to accept those additional funds when they become available, which should be around January of this upcoming year, 2026. And then hopefully once they get the design and engineering work done, then it will actually finally be able to get started. All right, item number 5, approve purchase of a portable pull-behind air compressor for $119,000. No, that's not right. I said that wrong. Sorry, $19,110.95. Sorry. That would be very expensive air compressors. The ones that we currently have aged out. They no longer have parts being made for them. So this was a budgeted item. It was actually budgeted half and half to come out of our streets division and our stormwater division. Our maintenance extraordinaire, Randy, was able to find a place that we could buy it from for $19,000 instead of $25,000. So we're actually coming in under budget on that. So that's super awesome. And half of it will still be coming out of streets division and half out of the stormwater fund. So it'll be about $9,555 from each of them. Item 6 is a first reading to amend the Red Bank Municipal Code around air pollution regulations. This is something that every city and county in the area is having to update because these are not regulations we set. We just have to adopt them into our code when there are things that change. So they have changed some fees around permitting and fee schedules. So we're just going to be talking about that tomorrow and then voting to amend our ordinance to adopt those fee schedules and permitting changes into our code. And then item 7, first reading. This is so confusing. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this, but our first reading to appoint an interim judge for our city courtroom for January 12, 2026 through February 10, 2026. Because unfortunately, very sadly, our judge is still very ill and is unable to be present. So our charter allows for us to appoint an interim judge. However, we have to renew the appointment every 30 days. So basically from now until the next little while, we are going to have to, every meeting, we're basically voting on a first reading or a second reading of reappointing Brian Haas, who is an attorney who lives here in Red Bank, who volunteered to sit in as our interim judge. So just reappointing him every 30 days. So we've got the first reading for that time period. We've already had a first reading for the time period he's serving in now. And then at tomorrow's meeting, we're also going to be voting on the second reading for this time period. It's just the way it is. And it's because Judge Houston was elected. If it was an appointed position, we could just appoint somebody and they would just be in that position indefinitely. But because Judge Houston was elected, this is the way we have to do it. Item number 8 This is a first reading to rezone 2633 Simpson Avenue from R1 to RTZ. The next item is to rezone 2633B because there's actually 2 lots, but the plan is, my understanding is to dissolve that line and then subdivide it into 3 parcels to build 3 homes there. There was 1 home on this property at some point in time, but at least a couple of years ago, I believe. It was in a very bad state of repair, and it was demolished. They actually this builder, or the property owners, went before the Planning Commission a couple of years ago, wanted to build 4 houses on the lot, and neighbors came out and were concerned about that many houses being built in their neighborhood, congestion, density changes, changes to the character of the neighborhood, etc. But in the comments, which I read the minutes from that meeting that was in December of 2023, the neighbors who spoke said we would be okay with 3 houses, not 4. So now what's happened is, I'm sure there's been some turnover in the neighborhood, but now what's happened is now some neighbors have shown up and they're saying we don't want any new houses at all, basically. So we've already had a public hearing on this, but we still have to have 2 readings, and 2 votes. So tomorrow will be the first vote on both of those properties getting rezoned, and then the second vote will occur at our next meeting on December 16th. So if you do have comments or questions or concerns about this, if you want to drive by the property, like I said, it's 2633 Simpson Avenue, and you can take a look at it for yourself and see if you have any thoughts or questions about it, and we will hear those tomorrow before we take our first vote. And then 10, we have 2 public hearings. One is a public hearing to have presented the final plat for the property donation that the Hill Point Subdivision Homeowners Association is donating to the city of Red Bank, that runs adjacent to, alongside the White Oak Connector Trail, and is directly involved in the property that we are calling the field, which is the Potter's Field Cemetery that was lost and rediscovered a few years ago. We're still working, that's, very long, lengthy process that we're going to be working on to try to restore that space. But part of that, access we really needed was the land that was owned by the Hill Point Homeowners Association. So they are actually donating the land. It has been platted out. We actually already voted to accept that land. We just didn't have like an exact plat. So this is just the final plat. They're just going to be presenting it. There's no vote that's going to be happening. But we will take comments if you have any comments about it or questions about it. And then the second public hearing that we have is ahead of our first vote, and this is the one I was talking about at the beginning, is our intent to exceed the recertified tax rate to 1.1306 per $100 of assessed property value. So, as you guys know, we received the wrong certified tax rate because Marty Haynes' office miscalculated Red Bank's certified tax rate, and only our certified tax rate. Everyone else's was fine. It was all good. Unfortunately, what happened was this was not discovered until after October 1st by our auditors, who were just in the house in City Hall doing their regular audit. And they just did a little quick calculation, just checking all their numbers, and they were like, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. And so brought it to our staff's attention. They checked it out. And then we determined that our certified tax rate that we got from the property assessor's office, which was 0.8968, was very wrong. It was actually supposed to be 1.0775. So basically, we went through the whole process during our budget season. After the budget season, because we get our certified tax rate typically after after we have to vote on our budget, we held separate hearings for the tax rate, and we, noticed that we intended to exceed that tax rate from 0.8968 to 0.98. We voted on that. It was a 4-1 vote. So that was our tax rate. We thought we were doing a minor increase, for inflationary reasons, etc. And it turned out that it really didn't matter what we did unless we went up to $1.07 or more. We did a tax decrease, actually, is what actually happened, because we were sent the wrong information. So we have since discovered a multitude of things. For instance, that the property assessor's office was doing this process all wrong. They are actually not the ones who are supposed to be calculating this. The statute has a whole process in place that I think that is probably not followed by anyone in this state, because it's been accepted the past couple of times since I've been here, since I've been elected. It's just been accepted coming directly from the property assessor's office, going up to the state, to the Board of Equalization, which is under the comptroller's office, and then coming back to us. The end. That's the way it's always been done. Since time immemorial. I asked our city attorney, even, who's been with us for 45 plus years, I asked him if he had ever been aware of it having been done any other way, and he said no. So it's been done wrong forever and ever and ever. And so because of that, we were not doing our own calculation, which is actually the way that the state statute says it's supposed to happen. The city themselves is actually supposed to calculate their prior year's tax levy, which then is all sent to the Board of Equalization at the state level. And then they take care of utility, railroad, and there's another one, I think, property assessments. So they incorporate that in, and then they send back a form saying, yep, we agree with you, we concur with your calculation, etc. And so absolutely 100%, that is how we will be doing this moving forward. And I hope every other city does that as well. And hopefully the property assessor's office changes their process and actually follows the state statute process that's in place, so that we can avoid issues like this in the future. All of that to say that it has been recalculated, it has been recertified. I had to sign it, our CFO had to sign it, and Marty Haynes had to sign it. And it went up to the Board of Equalization. They sent it back down. They said, yep, we concur with your recertified tax rate of 1.0775. That is what it should have been when it was calculated to begin with. But so it's been recertified. That is our certified tax rate. And we are proposing a vote to exceed that tax rate up to the 1.11306 amount. That's a 5.31 cent increase above the certified tax rate. It is going to produce the same amount of revenues that we thought we were going to be getting with the 0.8968 to 98 cent tax increase. So that's what we're voting on tomorrow. It's our first vote. There's the public hearing first, and then the first vote. We'll have our second vote on December 16th. This will not go into effect until next year's tax bill. You are not making up you're not going to be double taxed. You're not going to have to pay next year's taxes and then this year's taxes on top of that to make up. None of that is happening. Instead, what we are doing is we are looking within departments to see if there's any items that we can postpone or cut. We're implementing a hiring freeze as of January 1st, 2026. And then our county commissioner, David Sharp, is presenting a resolution at the county commission meeting this Wednesday, December 3rd, asking for a 10-year interest-free loan for a portion of the revenues that we thought we were going to be getting for this fiscal year. It was, I believe, for $463,000. So he is going to be presenting that resolution to his board on Wednesday, and then they're going to decide if they want to grant that to us. I will say, they are our tax dollars. We pay them to the county. They have a very healthy general fund and rainy day fund. And we are paying it back over the course of the 10 years, no interest, or that's the proposal anyway. So we'll see what they say. I would like to think that, they would like to work with us. We're not asking for the full amount because we're trying to do some things on our end to help kind of like reduce some costs that we had budgeted for and or postpone some projects or equipment purchases until next fiscal year or after. So we're trying to do our part, but that was a big gap. It was $762,000 that we had anticipated in revenues that we will not be getting. So we'll see how the meeting goes on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I'm working at my regular job on Wednesday, so I won't be able to go to the meeting. But if you're able to go and listen in or give a comment, please feel free to do so. Double check on that meeting time. I believe that they are meeting at 4 p.m. right now. At the city court, or the county courthouse, sorry. But check me on that, because they were only doing it temporarily. Their normal meeting time for years has been 9:30. So anyway, if you want to go, just double check that time. And that's it. It's a big agenda. Got lots of things tomorrow. But the big thing is this tax vote. Just please don't be confused when you hear that. We're basically doing the same thing we voted on in July with different numbers to make sure that we're set up for next year's budget season at the correct rate. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, type them in there now, or you know where to reach me. I thank you for joining me. This was my 100th episode of my porch talk / living room Christmas tree talk. I appreciate you all joining me for these past 5 years doing this. And I hope it's helpful and continues to be helpful. So if there's no questions, I will let you guys go, and I'll see you tomorrow at 5 at our regular city commission chambers, and 6 o'clock for our meeting. Good night.